What if I told you the most critical metal for humanity's green future is being deliberately kept cheap, not because it is abundant, but because its true price would expose the greatest financial illusion of our time? What if the very institutions telling you to save the planet are the same ones preventing you from understanding the metal that makes solar panels actually work? You've been told inflation is under control. You've been told the markets are fair. You've been told supply and demand set prices. But there's one asset the financial system cannot afford to let you understand. An asset that powers your phone, runs through every electric vehicle, and makes every single solar panel on this planet function. Silver, not gold, not Bitcoin. Silver. And right now, right at this very moment, global silver demand has exceeded silver supply for the fourth consecutive year, resulting in a structural market deficit of 148.9 million ounces in 2024 alone. During 2021 through 2024, the combined deficit reached 678 million ounces, equivalent to 10 months of global mine supply. 10 months of the entire world's silver production. Gone, consumed, vanished into technology you use every single day, and nobody's talking about it. Before we go any further, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Whether you're in Texas, Tokyo, or Toronto, I want to know how far this information is spreading, and if you want the unfiltered truth about what's really happening in global markets, the stuff mainstream financial media, whoa, you and touch it, that subscribe button right now. We're building something different here. Now let me show you why silver might be the most suppressed, most misunderstood, and most dangerously undervalued asset in human history. To understand what's happening today, we need to go back, way back. The Roman Empire officially fixed the gold to silver ratio at 12:1. For every ounce of gold, you could trade it for 12 ounces of silver. The Romans understood something fundamental. Silver was money. Real money. Centuries later, the US government set the ratio at 15:1 under the Coinage Act of 1792. 15:1. That was the American standard for what silver was worth relative to gold. Sound familiar? It should, because today in April 2025, the gold to silver ratio hit 105.85. One of the few times in history when it took more than 100 ounces of silver to buy a single ounce of gold. 100:1. When the historical average across human civilization has been closer to 15. Let me put that in perspective. Geologists tell us there's roughly 8 parts of silver to 1 part gold in the Earth's crust. The natural ratio is 8:1. The Roman Empire valued it at 12:1. America's founding fathers valued it at 15:1. And today, the market says it's worth 100:1. Does that sound like a free market to you? In 2020, the gold to silver ratio reached an all-time high of 125.1. During the COVID-19 pandemic, an absurd distortion that had never been seen in 5,000 years of recorded human history. Sound familiar? Here's what nobody tells you. The story of silver mining began about 5,000 years ago. Silver was first mined around 3000 BCE in Anatolia, now modern-day Turkey. The precious metal helped early civilizations in the Near East and ancient Greece flourish. By about 100 CE, the center of silver mining moved to Spain, where the mines became a major supplier for the Roman Empire and an essential trading component along the Asian spice routes. For millennia, silver was the backbone of global commerce. Kings fought wars over silver mines. Empires rose and fell based on their silver supplies. The Spanish conquest of the Americas wasn't about spice, it was about the silver mountains of Potosi. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Silver stopped being money. It became industrial. And that's when the real manipulation began. The most dramatic growth in silver demand has been in the photovoltaic industry, where silver usage for solar panel production surged from 60 million ounces in 2015 to an anticipated 232 million ounces in 2024, driven by the global expansion of solar energy. Read that again. 60 million ounces to 232 million ounces. In less than a decade. That's not growth. That's an explosion. The solar industry now accounts for 19% of all worldwide silver metal demand, according to the Silver Institute. Nearly 1/5 of all silver produced on Earth consumed by solar panels. But here's where it gets truly terrifying. The newest solar cell designs Stopcon and SH require silver for both the front and rear side of the cell. POPcon cells use 1.5 times more silver per gigawatt than older PERC cells. SHJ cells use 2 times more. Sound familiar? The green energy revolution everyone's celebrating is actually accelerating silver consumption at a rate nobody planned for. POPcon solar panels, requiring 50% more silver, drove demand to 200 million ounces in 2024, and projections suggest that US solar generation will surpass coal by 2030, requiring 300 million ounces annually. 300 million ounces just for American solar, every single year. And remember, global silver mine production in 2024 was just 819.7 million ounces. Now add everything else. Electric vehicles use approximately 50% more silver than internal combustion engine models. with this segment projected to consume 90 million ounces by 2030 AD. Electronics. Add medical equipment. Add water purification. Add the literal thousands of industrial applications that require silver's unmatched electrical conductivity. The dependency of the solar industry on silver is intensified by the current lack of suitable substitute materials. Due to silver's unmatched electrical conductivity and the maturity of silver screen printing processes, alternative materials and metallization techniques still have to address challenges before getting competitive. There is no substitute. Copper doesn't work. Aluminum doesn't work. Nothing else on this planet conducts electricity the way silver does, and the solar industry has no plan B. Global silver mine supply has contracted at a 0.9% compound annual growth rate since 2020. Supply is actually shrinking while demand is exploding. Research indicates that by 2030, supply may meet only 62 to 70% of demand, which is projected at 48,000 to 54,000 tons per year. 62% at best, 70%. The world will be short 30% of its silver needs. Here's the kicker: 72% of primary silver is produced as a co-product of other mining operations. Silver isn't mined primarily as silver. It comes out of lead mines, zinc mines, gold mines, copper mines. You can't just decide to mine more silver. The economics don't work that way. Silver is a byproduct of an industry that isn't expanding. Global mine supply has contracted, driven by declining ore grades and depletion at mature operations across major producing regions. The Fraser Institute reports that permitting timelines in primary jurisdictions now average 7 to 10 years, creating substantial barriers to new mine development. 7 to 10 years. Even if we started today and we haven't, the new silver wouldn't arrive until the early 2030s. By then, the solar industry alone could be consuming half of all silver produced. This isn't a supply problem. This is a mathematical impossibility. And this brings us to the question you should be asking. If supply is collapsing and demand is exploding, why hasn't the price moved accordingly? Why is silver still trading at levels that make no historical sense? The answer involves a financial mechanism so complex, so deliberately opaque, that most investors have never heard of it. It involves paper contracts that exist in quantities that dwarf the actual physical metal available. It involves warehouses that may not contain what they claim. And it involves a pricing mechanism that has been questioned by regulators, analysts, and investigators for decades. You won't believe what we're about to uncover. And the receipts are wilder than you think. Now, let's talk about why, despite everything I just showed you, 4 consecutive years of deficits, solar demand doubling, supply collapsing, silver's price hasn't exploded. The answer is the ownership of most of the gold and silver exchanged happens not as physical precious metals but as contracts on the COMEX. The COMEX is a division of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the CME Group. It's where people make trades in the derivatives market, including precious metals derivatives. Derivatives, not metal. Paper metal futures are mostly used for hedging and are not typically delivered. The COMEX does not supply metals but instead acts as an intermediary. On the COMEX, gold and silver are traded through contracts called derivatives. Here's the critical point. A confusion has come about where people think the COMEX is where the spot price of silver is set. However, the COMEX is explicitly a futures market and not a physical delivery market. The price of silver, the price you see quoted on your screen, is set by a market where the vast majority of participants never intend to take delivery of actual metal. They're trading promises, paper promises. While the COMEX allows as many paper derivative contracts to be placed as bets on the market price, we only have a finite amount of the real metals available on the market at any given time. Those cannot be printed up at the push of a button on a computer like the paper contracts can be. Let that sink in. The price of physical silver, finite resource being consumed faster than an S produced, is determined by infinite paper contracts that can be created at will. But wait, isn't there supposed to be physical metal backing these contracts? In theory, yes. The COMEX maintains 2 categories of silver in its approved vaults: registered and eligible. Eligible silver is housed within the COMEX system but does not have a warrant. You can't take delivery without a warrant. Registered silver is in the warehouse with a warrant allowing you to take delivery. Sounds reasonable, right? But here's what they don't tell you. 50% of the eligible gold and silver in the COMEX approved vaults should be subtracted from deliverable supply, since that portion held in the eligible category is held by long-term investors and has nothing to do with COMEX futures trading. Half of what they claim is available isn't actually available. It belongs to someone else. It's sitting there, counted in the inventory numbers you see reported, but it can't actually be delivered against contracts. COMEX registered silver has been in freefall since February 2021. The actual deliverable silver, the metal that can back paper contracts, has been draining from the system for years. Now let's talk about what happens when someone actually demands delivery. In 1997, silver was trading around $4.50, a price Warren Buffett deemed exceptionally low. His company, Berkshire Hathaway, seized the opportunity, gradually accumulating COMEX silver contracts set to mature in March 1998. By February 1998, Berkshire Hathaway's holdings amounted to a staggering 129 million ounces of silver, 129 million ounces, from one investor. In a bold move, Buffett declared his intention not to roll over the contracts but to demand physical delivery upon maturity, demand that COMEX inventories could meet. Short sellers found themselves in a frenzy, scrambling to procure physical silver to fulfill their obligations. The consequence: silver prices surged to over $7.30 by mid-February, marking a remarkable 60% increase. A single buyer demanding actual metal caused a 60% price spike, because the metal wasn't there. However, Buffett eventually relented, offering short sellers an extension on delivery in exchange for a premium rumored to be 50 cents per ounce. He let them off the hook for a price. But what if he hadn't? When physical deliveries are miscounted, the paper contract derivative trades overstate short-term speculative interest in the metals versus those willing to take ownership. More importantly, it overstates the amount of physical metals available for delivery on the futures market. It basically amounts to fraud, much as if your bank claimed to have enough cash for your deposit, then notified you when you showed up that you'd have to wait 2 to 3 months to get your cash. This is the system that sets the global price of silver. In 2020, the COMEX saw 172,000 contracts of 100 ounce gold delivered, valued at $25.7 billion. Silver deliveries were even more extraordinary, with 43,798 contracts of 5,000 ounce silver delivered, valued at $5.8 billion. These are large numbers for the precious metals market, which does not routinely see so much physical settlement. The vast majority of contracts are rolled into the next available delivery months, or settled for cash. The vast majority never take delivery. They're not buying silver, they're betting on silver, and their bets set the price for the people who actually need the metal. Now, here's where we connect the dots. We are in a 4-year deficit of around 240 million ounces annually, and it's climbing every single year, according to industry executives. 240 million ounces every year, consumed and not replaced. Global silver demand reached 1.2 billion ounces in 2024, driven by the photovoltaic solar market. Industrial consumption surged 7% to 700 million ounces, also driven by strong demand from electric vehicle, powertrain, and charging infrastructure.